In the damp, gas-lit shadows of Victorian London, a blade flashed in the dark, carving a permanent scar into history. On August 31st, 1888, the mutilated body of Mary Ann Nichols was discovered in Whitechapel, signaling the arrival of the world's most notorious phantom. There was no warning, no negotiation, and no mercy. This was not a simple murder. It was a calculated performance of anatomical horror. As the cold morning fog rolled over her blood-soaked remains, a terrified metropolis realized that a faceless monster had claimed their cobblestone streets, beginning a reign of terror that would never be solved. To understand the monster, one must understand his hunting ground. Whitechapel in 1888 was a claustrophobic labyrinth of poverty, vice, and despair. Overcrowded tenement houses, filthy alleyways, and the constant stench of slaughterhouses defined the East End. Thousands of destitute women struggled to survive night by night, forced into the shadows of the foggy docks. The dense, choking smog of industrial London acted as a perfect, impenetrable cloak. In this desperate underworld, life was incredibly cheap, and the cries of the vulnerable were easily drowned out by the relentless, grinding noise of the city. Just over a week later, the terror escalated. Annie Chapman's body was found in a dark backyard on Hanbury Street, her throat slashed and her abdomen brutally mutilated. The killer had operated with terrifying speed and eerie silence, right under the noses of sleeping residents. Rumors spread like wildfire through the panicked crowds. The precision of the cuts suggested a chilling possibility. The killer possessed surgical skill, perhaps a doctor, a butcher, or a medical student. The police were completely baffled, realizing they were not hunting a common criminal, but a methodical predator who thoroughly enjoyed his gruesome work. As fear gripped the city, the killer decided to mock his pursuers. A chilling letter arrived at the Central News Agency, written in red ink and signed with a name that would echo through history, Jack the Ripper. He promised more blood, boasting of his blade and his complete contempt for the police. Was it a cruel hoax by a journalist or the genuine voice of the murderer? The media seized upon the sensational name, splashing it across every front page. In an instant, a local murderer became a global phenomenon, transforming the grim reality of Whitechapel into a theatrical nightmare. September 30th, 1888 became known as the night of the double event. In less than an hour, the Ripper struck twice. First, Elizabeth Stride was found with her throat cut, her killer likely interrupted before he could mutilate her. Frustrated, Jack hunted for a second prey. 45 minutes later, Catherine Eddowes was discovered nearby, her body horribly mutilated and a piece of her apron missing. The police chased shadows in the dark, always one step behind. The sheer audacity of killing twice in one night proved that the Ripper was escalating, fueled by a dangerous adrenaline. The horror deepened when George Lusk, chairman of the Whitechapel Vigilance Committee, received a small cardboard box in the mail. Inside lay half of a preserved human kidney, preserved in spirits, accompanied by a letter headed from hell. The writer claimed to have fried and eaten the other half, describing it as highly agreeable. Medical analysis confirmed the kidney was human and suffering from Bright's disease, the same ailment that afflicted victim Catherine Eddowes. This stomach-churning delivery shattered any remaining hope that the letters were merely a harmless press game. The devil was real, and he was hungry. The violence reached its catastrophic peak on November 9th inside a tiny, bleak room at Miller's Court. Mary Jane Kelly, a young and popular woman, was found virtually unrecognizable, her body dissected with a level of savagery that defied human comprehension. Unlike the previous victims killed in public alleys, Jack had hours of undisturbed privacy indoors. The crime scene was a vision of absolute madness, illuminated only by the dying embers of a fireplace. This final, horrifying spectacle marked the zenith of the killer's madness, leaving an indelible stain on the collective consciousness of Victorian society. Who was behind the leather apron? The list of suspects grew to include hundreds of names, spanning from the lowest slums to the highest echelons of British royalty. Some pointed to Prince Albert Victor, suggesting a royal conspiracy to silence witnesses. Others suspected Montague John Drute, a troubled barrister who drowned himself shortly after the final murder. Then there was Francis Tumblety, an American quack doctor with a known hatred for women, who fled the country under suspicion. Each theory offered compelling clues, yet none could provide the definitive proof required to unmask the legendary killer. The hunt was led by Inspector Frederick Aberline, a dedicated detective battling a system completely unequipped for a modern serial killer. In 1888, there was no fingerprinting, no DNA profiling, and no forensic database. Investigators relied on primitive bloodhound tracking, eyewitness testimonies that contradicted one another, and basic foot patrols. The police force was heavily criticized, mocked by the public, and overwhelmed by thousands of false leads and fake letters. They were searching for a ghost in an era of steam and shadow, fighting an invisible enemy with obsolete tools. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, the slaughter stopped. After the horrific murder of Mary Jane Kelly, the Ripper vanished into the London fog, never to strike again. Did the killer die of disease, get committed to an asylum, or flee across the ocean to find new hunting grounds? Some believe he was imprisoned for an unrelated crime, carrying his dark secret to an anonymous grave. The abrupt silence only fueled the mystery, turning a series of historical crimes into an eternal urban legend that would haunt humanity for centuries. Over a century later, modern technology continues to chase Jack's shadow. Cold case investigators utilize geographic profiling to map his hunting patterns, while DNA experts attempt to extract genetic material from the old letters and victim clothing. In recent years, controversial tests on a shawl allegedly belonging to Catherine Eddowes pointed toward Aaron Kosminski, a Polish barber who was a prime suspect at the time. Yet scientific skepticism remains high, and the evidence is fiercely debated. The truth remains tantalizingly out of reach, buried beneath generations of myth, speculation, and decayed evidence. Ultimately, Jack the Ripper escaped justice to become an immortal symbol of human darkness. He remains the archetypal phantom of the modern city, a reminder of the horrors that can hide in plain sight. The victims, whose lives were tragically cut short, are forever bound to their killer's dark legacy. As we look back through the fog of time, the empty streets of Whitechapel still seem to whisper his name. The case remains open, a chilling monument to the unsolved mysteries of history, proving that some monsters are destined to dwell in the dark forever.